holy.
Now we'll have our daily word for Sunday, May 3rd, 2026, which is life. With joy, I dance in the fountain of life. Observing children playing in a fountain, I hear them laughing as they dart through the sprays of water, surprised by the sudden geysers. Sunlight turns the wafting mist into prisms of color, a reminder that the same joy and light dance in me. Life can feel like that fountain, fun, but sometimes catching me by surprise. If I resist, I grow weary. But when I move with its rhythm, dodging, laughing, and dancing, I feel the pulse of divine life. Even in challenging circumstances, I can regard the spray as refreshment, the soaking as grace. Each of these baptisms becomes an invitation to cleansing, renewal, and awakening, and a chance to grow in spirit. As I join life's dance, I am lifted. Creativity awakens, joy abounds, and I feel fully alive. And our biblical reference this morning for with you is the fountain of life. In your light we see light. And it's Psalm 36:9.
And staying in that gentle place, feeling the resonance of the singing bowls, dancing with the light inside every cell of our being. Let us take 3 deep conscious breaths together. Inhale and exhale. The inhale, the exhale, the inhale, the exhale. Moving into the internal realm now, the secret place of the Most High. Maybe focusing the breath into the cave of the heart. Maybe imagining a beautiful lotus blossom in the cave of the heart. And as we breathe in, we feel the petals of the lotus blossom open. And as we breathe out, we feel that opening in every cell of our being. Breathing in the petals of the beautiful lotus open, stretching as our heart opens to the light of love, to the light of peace, to the light of joy. That is the eternal truth about us. we rest in the cave of the heart, in the beauty of the lotus blossom, in the love of spirit, in the light of the divine, as we breathe in the silence together. God is, I am. God is, I am. I am. God is. And so gently and easily feeling the light within, aware of the body on the chair, the feet on the floor. Easily and in your own time, bringing your awareness here to the room, to the sound of my voice, and to the beauty of beloved community. Amen. How do we hold on? That's what I'm talking about today. Holding on through it all and being the light that we are, despite it all. So there's a little story here I wanted to start with. It was the coldest winter ever, and many animals died because of the cold. The porcupines, realizing the situation, decided to group together. This way they covered and protected themselves, but the quills of each one wounded the closest companions, even though they shared their heat with each other. After a while, they decided to distance themselves from one another to stop being wounded. As they did this, they began to die alone and frozen. So they had to make a choice. Either accept the quills of their companions or disappear from the earth. Wisely, they decided to go back to being together again. This way, they learned to live with the little wounds that were caused by the closest relationships with their companions. But the most important part of it was the heat that came from the others that enabled them to survive the coldest winter ever. So how do we survive the coldest winter ever, we could say, in a way, right? How do we survive that and not go into separation and not go into blame and not go into, the survival brain that's kicking up right now, which is natural for us, right? We have a survival brain that when we feel threatened wants to kick up. And the challenge with that is when we're in that part of our brain, right? We're disconnected, we're disembodied, and we're disconnected from that beautiful light of spirit that is within us all, right? So evolving consciousness is, requires, two things, I think. One, the courage to shine our light in the darkness, and to be vulnerable, to allow ourselves to feel what we're feeling about it in the quietness and safety of our own sacred spaces, so that energy can move through rather than leak out inappropriately, right? And there's the attention is on meeting that vulnerability, because when we can meet that within ourselves, we can meet that within others. And we can see beneath unskilled behavior, perhaps, just a deeper wound. And to meet that with love and compassion. That's really what we're called to, is widening, the Buddhists call it widening our circles of compassion. It's easy to love each other in this room. We're of like mind for the most part, right? You know what I mean? How can we keep widening those circles of compassion? How can we bring in those that we have deemed are outside that circle, right? That sense of belonging, like St. Paul says, love never dies. Love never fails. And so I think, to remember the healing power of love, that no matter what we're seeing, no matter what's going on around us, right? The healing power of love. Michelle Alexander has written a book called The New Jim Crow. And in it, she talks about a river of justice and love as this sort of continuous, unstoppable flow of struggle for equality, for love, for unity, for human rights, for solidarity. And that in the face of oppression, it can become more full and more powerful. That's her thesis. It can become more full and more powerful. This is our opportunity. And she offers the image of a fleet of boats in the river. And the fleet of boats represents the different ways that we choose to engage out of love, out of compassion, to serve each other, to serve our neighbors, to serve the greater good. Every time we shine our light, every time we do an act of loving kindness or service or choose love over fear, we're putting our boat in the river. And we saw this, we saw this strengthening of light in the darkness, in the civil rights movement. We saw the light that emerged. We saw the solidarity, the unity, the standing in the truth. And she said that she also saw it, she witnessed fleets of boats in Minneapolis. Remember when ICE were in Minneapolis? How could we forget, right? And neighbors showing up for each other, right? Meeting abuse of power with solidarity and care and love. How do we keep putting our boats in the water? And it's not an easy thing. So we're called, we all are, to move from reaction to threat, the threat of the survival brain, porcupines that go off on our own, right? Because we don't want to be touched or, wounded or affected by anyone or anything around us, to our more evolved capacity for love and connection. And this, we are wired for love and compassion and connection and unity. This is what resides in the cave of the heart. This ability to be the light. And it gives life to the river of love and justice. And Tara Brach says, to be part of the river of justice and love, and for that river to flow through us, for us to widen our circles of belonging, it's crucial that we see, as Thich Nhat Hanh put it, that humans are not the enemy. The true enemies are hatred, separation, ignorance, fear, craving, attachment, violence. And that Thich Nhat Hanh, emphasized that by understanding the suffering within ourselves, we can more understand it within others. And that then we can overcome the urge to judge, the urge to separate, the urge to lash out in all the ways that perhaps we are not violent physically, but thoughts can have violence to them. So we can practice choosing compassion to transform conflict into reconciliation. I love this from Howard Thurman. This can be our intention. I want to be more loving in my heart. It's often easy to see it with my mind and give assent to the thought of being loving. But I want to be more loving in my heart. So I must ease the tension in my heart that ejects the sharp barb, the stinging word. I want to be more loving in my heart, so that through both unconscious awareness and deliberate intent, I shall be a kind and gracious human being. I want to be more loving in my heart. That's the power of intention. When we ask ourselves, how do I put my boat in the river of love and justice? It starts with intention, just that. And we're human beings, and we're not perfect. We're perfect with a capital P, I like to say. And we're not perfect in our human form. And we go into, as I said, our survival brain. And so our journey is really about recognizing when we feel threatened, when we feel unsafe, when we feel disgusted or outraged or whatever. How do we respond? With no judgment, we observe. There's flight, fight, or freeze. And Tara Brach says there's also appease. And these are like trances we go into. Do we fight? And the fight is blaming. They're wrong. I'm right. What the Buddhists call bad othering, right? They're bad. Ever done bad othering, right? They're bad. We're good, or I'm good. That's the fight. So we just notice with compassion. Do we flee? Flight. This is more than I can take. Distraction. There's many ways we can flee from things without actually physically fleeing, right? Losing ourselves in something else, overworking, over planning, over busy. How do we leave? How do we leave this, our true feelings, really? Because these are all things we do when what we're feeling is too much for us to handle, or we think it is. Or do we freeze? Freeze is when we might feel stuck, overwhelmed, confused, unable to act, procrastinating, withdrawing, or just numbness. These are natural human responses of the survival brain. And again, Tara Brach, the Buddhist teacher, says also we can appease. We don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to create conflict, right? Or I just want to be, what is it that we do? And gently asking ourselves. Because they're just ways that really protect us from what we're experiencing and what we're feeling. Let's take a breath. I want to be more loving in my heart. We all want that. And the spiritual path, as most of us probably know at this stage, is about remembering and forgetting. Right? Remembering and forgetting. And the beautiful expression of spirit. All is well. I send love and light out into the world. God, I can't stand them or that, or, right? Or I'm trusting divine unfoldment is taking place even in the midst of this perceived darkness. I'm trusting, I'm standing in my divine self with trust and knowing there's a divine plan. And then other days, the contraction, the grip of fear. What's going to happen? Our compassion for those that are being marginalized right now too can cause us to contract in sorrow. So we keep the breath going so that we can reawaken to the river of flow and justice, unveiling what Panache Dese calls unveiling our essential self that has never been touched or altered or affected or perturbed by anything, by anyone, by even this situation. We have that within us that is strong, essential, resourceful, trusting. And so we're invited, I think, to come home to that and to look at the many ways that we can put our boats in the river. We're putting boats in the river right now by gathering. You all showed up here today, even though there was a parking issue and probably traffic or whatever. Here we are. Our boats are in the river because we have said yes to being in high consciousness today, to being in beloved community today, to being in service, to being with spirit today. And as we do, we become more connected. And beloved community becomes bigger and bigger. The world becomes, our country becomes our beloved community. So Sojourner Truth was formerly an enslaved woman who became a powerful advocate for abolition and women's rights. And she says this: life is a hard battle anyway. If we laugh and sing a little as we fight the good fight of freedom, it makes it all go easier. I will not allow my life's light to be determined by the darkness around me. I will not allow my life's light to be determined by the darkness around me. What a great practice. What a great way to put our boat in the river. To make that commitment again and again and again, and we will have to probably keep making it again and again and again. Nothing, no thing is going to stand in the way of the power of the light within me shining brightly. And so Tara Brach says, so make room for the light and for delight. It's not an escape. Our pleasures, our laughter, our beauty, it just restores our capacity. And it reminds us that we're more than what is being demanded of us. It's another good one. We're more than what's being demanded of us right now. So to be in joy, to be in song, to be in levity, to remember all of those things, that's another way we put our boat in the river. Because nothing is going to stop us. Nothing. And we celebrate the goodness that's here. Because there's goodness here. There's goodness in the midst of it all. There's always goodness. There's always spirit. There's always love. And we choose love. And, we are each part of this evolving movement that is that is in the face of a long, cold winter. Just like the porcupines. Here we are. In the face of a long, cold winter, there is hope. There is light. There is love. And we stand together. We stand united. We gain heat from each other in beloved community during these times. During the Vietnam War, apparently, there was a man who every day stood outside the White House and he lit a candle and he stood there until the candle burnt down. And he did that for days. And one day a reporter came up to him and asked, do you really think that this is going to change what is happening in the world? Do you really think that this lighting of the candle is going to change what's happening in the world? And the man thought for a minute and he said, no, I'm not doing this to change what's happening. I'm doing this so that what's happening won't change me. We put our boat in the water, in the river, so that it won't change us, what's happening. That's what Spirit's calling us to. Thich Nhat Hanh. This, my dear, is the greatest challenge to being alive, to witness injustices in the world and not allow it to consume our light. This is it. This is all part of Spirit's divine plan for us to rise up and rise strong. And all of us that have been doing the reading and practicing the principles have been being prepared for the long, cold winter that we're in right now. And so we get to reach inside and find the power of love within us shining brightly, the power of freedom, the power of joy, the power of unity and connection. And we get to stand and say, I'm not going to let this change me. I am not going to meet whatever is going on or whatever is being said at the same level of consciousness with which it's being said. I am responding from the place of the Most High. So we can be curious as we go about our day and days, how we can put our boat in the river of love and justice. And I know that each and every one of you are doing it so beautifully, and that everything I've said today is simply a reminder for us to keep shining brightly, beautifully, to let our light shine. We are the light of the world. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for watching. Join us on Sunday mornings at the Carlsbad Senior Center at 10:30 in the morning, 799 Pine Avenue, Carlsbad, California. Hope to see you there.